Greetings. I guess I just wanted to share something, and it's pretty bad, but I looked into this a little more. I look into it every once in a while, not that often, but I found some things that I didn't see before with the critical text, and I don't want to make it a huge thing. It's not. The Father can give us truth regardless of what's going on. That's the truth. But nevertheless, still looking at man's works, this one impressed me today because I didn't know this one. And it's in Matthew 6:1. Let me see if I could split screen. Uh, the I didn't want to say that much really, except for just beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father who is in heaven. That's just bringing up that it's actually a different Greek word for the righteousness. The word righteousness there in NIV or NASB, whatever uses the critical text word there, it's actually a different word, Greek word. So it's not a translation variance. It's actually a different Greek word. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I came across it today. I don't know what to think of that. It's pretty bad. Beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father who is in heaven. Wow. This is the Greek word 1343, G1343. I don't know how to pronounce this. Dikaiosunē, dikaiosunē. This is righteousness, justification in a broad sense, state of him who is as he ought to be, righteousness, the condition acceptable to, says God, the doctrine concerning the way in which man may attain a state approved by Elohim, integrity, virtue, purity of life, rightness, correctness of thinking, feeling, and acting, justice, virtue. And it's translated righteousness 86 times, and that's it. It's the word righteousness. Like, it's used throughout the New Testament 86 times, and it's throughout most of the books. Revelation, let the one who does wrong still do wrong. Uh-oh. Was that teaching us to sin? And the one who is filthy still be filthy, and let the one who is righteous still practice righteousness, and the one who is holy still keep himself holy. Let me read a different translation. Where's that verse? Blessed are those who do his commandments. The NU text, I just happened to stumble on one, just reading the footnote. NU text reads, wash their robes. It's not to trash that, but what's the truth? Replace do his commandments with wash your robes. There's high incentive for that. Let me see what the NIV says. I know this is a little bit different, I guess, but just examining what people do and why they do it. They're working really hard to get the text perfect someday. It's on the 28th edition. Always changing. Now I lost it. The Spirit and the bride say, come, and let the one who hears say, come. Let the one who is thirsty come. Let the one who wishes take the free gift of the water of life. Now I can't find. Blessed are those who wash their robes. Yeah, that's the critical text removes commandments in Revelations. Instead of saying do his commandments, it says wash your robes. And then the new I can't remember my other examples even right now. I just have Matthew 5. Oh, I wanted to compare Matthew 6 and 5 because according to how they write it like this, don't practice your righteousness to be seen in front of others. And then in Matthew 5, I'll find it here, about not hiding the light. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but under a lampstand, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that's people, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Messiah's teaching. New King James. Do not think I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. I say unto you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. So the very next chapter, Matthew 5, is to shine the light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works. Now, going into the NIV or NASB, Matthew 6:1, beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward in heaven. NIV, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from the Father in heaven, from your Father in heaven. What does the NIV say? You are the light of the world, town built on a hill. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others. They don't like using man or woman many times that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. The good works are to be seen. It's not showing off. When someone's walking in the Spirit, these are the good works. When someone asks you a question and you answer honestly with no deception and with love and care, that's good works that they can see. And that's just the examples can go on and on and on. And then all of a sudden, Messiah is saying, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. I know what they're going to say this means. They're going to try to connect it and say that this is almsgiving when it's not. That word is righteousness. 86 all times, righteousness. He's saying not to practice your righteousness or let it be seen by others. Ever. This is a completely different word. This was the big one to me. G1343, they used that word 86 times. And the other word is a different word, Greek word, G1654, eleēmosunē. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it has to do with giving, alms, giving, compassion to the poor, mercy, pity, giving, alms, charity, donation to poor, alms. Used 14 times, this word, this Greek word. It's a completely different word, and it says, take heed. Now let me read the words that always were available, that always existed long before these people that created the critical text. Before, a few hundred years before they were born, we could still read it. Translations before the King James, the Latin going before that, they were always here. It always said, take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds. New King James has charitable deeds. Old King James has alms giving. Take heed you do not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them, to watch out for that intention. of wanting to be seen by giving. This is corruption. This is what man does constantly. He wants to be seen when he gives as good, for being seen as good. He does the good so he's seen. Messiah is saying, take heed not to be seen in this way with the heart. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. And verse 2 makes sense. Therefore, when you do your charitable deed, do not sound the trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory from men. Surely I say to you, they have their reward. And when you go back to the NIV that uses this critical text, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. That word does not talk about giving. It does not mean giving at all. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. Now, verse 2 doesn't even make sense, and I found this along the way throughout the months and years with the critical text. Every now and then I'd spot something, and the context is broken. You could tell that the original writing is the right writing that always existed. Verse 2, so when you give, that word give there is that Greek word that's used in verse 1 in the traditional, the historical text, the right text. Now it's using that Greek word in verse 2, but it didn't use it in verse 1 at all in the critical text. It used the word for righteousness. Now in verse 2 it says when you give, that's the word right there, give. Alms, that's the word that's the other Greek word. Messiah never mentioned anything about giving in verse 1. He says, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others. So when you give, continuing, as if it should have been there in verse 1, like it always has been. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites. We don't play their games. I know what these people would say, that it's alluding to what they don't care about truth. They don't care about the words. They don't care about what it means. They don't care about anything. That word is righteousness, and it does not mean giving at all. There's no example of it used 86 times in the context of giving directly. It does not mean giving. It could include, doing good works. I mean, everything's connected in that way, but the Greek word does not mean giving. It's literally saying don't practice your righteousness and don't be seen doing it. Otherwise, you won't have a reward. I wonder what God this is, one word, unbelievable. Sounds like the devil to me. Maybe I should read a few examples of this word righteousness. See, it is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness. First example, Matthew 3, Matthew 5. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. I don't see this word meaning giving so far directly. It doesn't have giving in its definition. Blessed are those that have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. Messiah says that verse says don't make sure you're not seen doing this word here, the same word. Don't do your righteousness to be seen. How do you get persecuted for something you're bewaring and being careful not to be seen? Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's amazing to me. This is the same word in Matthew 5:10. Someone gets persecuted for doing righteousness because someone sees it. For I say to you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now back to 6:1. Beware of practicing your righteousness, same word, before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father from heaven. Did the Father inspire this? Because this is a literal spiritual contradiction. It's broken. It's evil. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. John came in the way of righteousness. You did not believe him. The tax collectors and prostitutes did believe him. And you, seeing this, did not even feel remorse afterwards so as to believe him. Right, there's no heart in holiness and righteousness before him all our days. And he, when he comes, will convict the world concerning sin and righteousness and judgment. And concerning righteousness, because I go to the Father and you no longer see me. Acts 13. Now, you are full of deceit and fraud, you son of the devil, you enemy of all righteousness. Will you not cease to make crooked the straight ways of Yahuwah? Oh, it's comical how evil mankind, oh man. But Saul, who was also known as Paul, filled with the set apart spirit, fixed his gaze on him and said, you who are full of all deceit and fraud, you son of the devil, you enemy of all righteousness, will you not cease to make crooked the straight ways of Yahuwah? Acts 17. Because he has fixed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness, the very righteousness Messiah taught in Matthew 6:1, to never be seen by anyone. Same word here. These are all the different places this word's used, 86 times. But as he was discussing righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come, Felix became frightened and said, go away for the present, and when I find time, I will summon you. For in it the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from faith to faith. The righteous shall live by faith. Romans 3. But if our unrighteousness demonstrates the righteousness of Elohim, what shall we say? But now, apart from the law, the righteousness of Elohim has been manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of Elohim through faith. I'm going to skip some of them in Romans. This word's used many times in Romans. 1 Corinthians 1. But by his doing you are in Messiah, Yahushua, who became to us wisdom from Elohim and righteousness and sanctification and redemption. Same word. For if the ministry of condemnation has glory, that just sounded funny. For if the ministry of condemnation has glory, much more does the ministry of righteousness abound in glory. He made him who knew no sin to be sin on our behalf, so that we might become the righteousness of Elohim in him. A sin offering. I mean, how many times do we read in the scripture, sin offering? Messiah became a sin offering. In the word of truth, in the power of Elohim, by the weapons of righteousness for the right hand and the left. Do not be bound together with unbelievers, for what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness? What fellowship has light with darkness? His righteousness endures forever. Skip a few. All scripture is inspired by Elohim and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness. The very righteousness Messiah supposedly taught, never to do and be seen by anyone, by men, by people. In the future there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness. You have loved righteousness and hated lawlessness. For everyone who partakes only of milk is not accustomed to the word of righteousness, for he is an infant. Because we have to grow. Just like a child grows after it's born, matures. King of righteousness, and then also King of Salem, which is King of peace. Became the heir of righteousness. James, for the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of Elohim. And he believed, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And the seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. So that we die to sin and live to righteousness, for by his wounds you were healed. But even if you should suffer for the sake of righteousness, you are blessed, and do not fear their intimidation, and do not be troubled. A few more. Noah, a preacher of righteousness with 7 others. Well, he was not supposed to be preaching to anyone because he's supposed to be careful not to show this righteousness to be seen by anyone. Isn't that what a preacher does, is speak, which is to be heard and seen in some kind of carnal way, at least with the physical ears and eyes seen? For it would be better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than having known it to turn away from the set apart commandment handed on to them. We're looking forward for a new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. The very thing we're supposed to be careful never to be doing for others to see. I wonder what the new heavens and earth will look like. Maybe we'll be in prison cells with no windows, no bars or windows. If you know that he is righteous, you know that everyone also who practices righteousness is born of him. Little children, make sure no one deceives you. The one who practices righteousness is righteous just as he is righteous. That word practice again. Messiah, Matthew 6:1. Beware not to practice your righteousness to be seen by others. People might want to question the rest of the critical text when one corruption so bad that it literally destroys everything, because it literally is teaching, implying that Messiah taught to do evil and hide good. All good, all righteousness. Never be seen by anyone. Don't shine your light ever. Don't do good works. If you get seen doing righteousness, of which we read not to be seen, contradicting Messiah teaching in Matthew 5, not even one chapter before, to let your light so shine and good works be seen by men, then all of a sudden don't beware of practicing and being seen practicing righteousness before men, lest, otherwise you won't have a reward from the Father. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and wages war. Let the one who does wrong still do wrong, and the one who is filthy still be filthy. Let the one who is righteous still practice righteousness, and the one who is set apart still keep him wholly set apart. He who is unjust, let him be unjust still. He who is filthy, let him be filthy still. He who is righteous, let him be righteous still. He who is holy, let him be holy still. This is an understanding of the sovereignty of the Creator, and understanding evil and how it works, and what man is, what he can do, and what he can't do. Those that are unjust, let them be unjust till they can do nothing else. This is not teaching to go and do evil. This is speaking to those that are evil and unjust, doing evil works. Let them continue. It's going to be this or the other thing. There is no middle. Or he who is righteous, let him be righteous still. Filthy or righteous, one or the other. Give everyone according to his work. I am the Alpha, the Omega, beginning, the end, the first, and the last. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life, may enter through the gates into the city, but outside are dogs and sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters and whoever loves and practices a lie. I, Yahushua, have sent my angel to testify to these things in the ecclesias or assemblies. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. And the Spirit and the bride say, Come. Let him who hears say, Come. Let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely. For I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to these things, Elohim will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, Elohim shall take away his part from the book of life. Tree of life, book of life. from the set apart city and from the things which are written in this book. He who testifies to these things says, surely I am coming quickly. So be it, even so. Come, Yahushua Messiah. The grace of our Master Yahushua Messiah be with you all. So be it.